You're waiting for her to say yes. Let me save you years of your life. You will never hear it. No woman in her right mind, at the peak of her attraction, will ever utter that simple, logical, and completely unnecessary phrase. She won't say, I want you. She won't say, take me. And she certainly won't say, let's get down to business. To say that would mean taking responsibility, admitting she's the initiator, and destroying the delicate magic of seduction, where the man leads and she follows. While you wait like a good boy for verbal permission, her body is already screaming. It's not just hinting. It's sending signals that can only be interpreted one way. If you don't act right now, this impulse will die. And 99% of men are deaf and blind to these signals. They keep talking, smiling, telling stories, while her instincts, her subconscious, have already delivered their verdict. He doesn't see it. He's not capable. He's not a man. This is exactly what Freud was talking about. He proved that our true desires live not in our words, but in our slips of the tongue, our dreams, and most importantly for us, in our body language. A woman is like a reverse lie detector. Her mouth might say no, but her body is screaming yes, with the full force of its primal programming. And today, I'm not just going to give you advice. I'm going to hand you a pair of psychoanalytic glasses, the legacy of Freud and Jung. That will teach you to see not what she shows you, but what she is powerless to hide. We are going to break down 7 hidden, instinctive, and absolutely unmistakable signals from her body that are a direct biological invitation to act. This isn't flirtation. This is instinct. And by learning to read them, you will stop being a polite observer and become the man she is waiting for, a man who sees, understands, and acts. But I have to warn you, this information is a game changer. It will forever change the way you look at women. If you're ready for that kind of truth, please like this video before we begin. And if you're new here and not afraid of depth, subscribe right now, because we don't do shallow topics on this channel. And before we start, I'd love to know our geography. Please write in the comments what city you're from. Let's see where the most observant men live. Part 1. Signals of boundary testing. She enters your territory, so you can enter HERS before we get to the signals themselves. Remember this fundamental law of attraction psychology. Interest always begins with crossing a boundary. Not with compliments, not with flowers, but with a small, almost imperceptible intervention into someone else's territory. And a woman, being the more finely tuned creature, always makes the first move, but she does it in a way that her conscious mind can say, it was an accident, while her subconscious registers your reaction. It's her way of testing the waters without jumping in. Signal number 1. Invading the intimate zone. The dominance check. What is this really about? The intimate zone isn't just a nice metaphor. It's a real physical space around your body, defined by the science of proxemics. On average, it extends about 16 to 20 inches from you. This is your personal bubble, your invisible fortress. When an unfamiliar man enters it without permission, our limbic system perceives it as a threat. But when a woman who is interested in you crosses that invisible barrier, it's the ultimate test. She will find absolutely any logical excuse to be inside that bubble, to show you something funny on her phone, to brush a non-existent piece of lint off your shoulder, to read the label on something behind you. Why does she do this on a deeper level? Her conscious, rational mind tells her, I just want to show him a funny video. But her subconscious, her ancient reptilian brain, is conducting a crucial test at that moment. She enters your zone and unconsciously tracks your micro-reactions. What will a weak man, a beta, do? He'll instinctively flinch, take a half step back, get awkward, and look away. He's failed the test. His body has said, you are a threat to me. I am not ready for your closeness. He doesn't own his space. And what will a strong man, an alpha, do? Absolutely nothing. He will stand his ground. He is calm. He is the master of his space, and her presence in it is not a threat, but a welcome bonus. He might smile, look her in the eyes, and maybe even heighten the moment by slightly tilting his head towards her, showing that her closeness is desired. This moment is pure evolutionary psychology. For millennia, the female has chosen the male who controls his territory, who is calm and confident in the face of an invasion. At the very moment, she is standing 1.5 feet away from you, and you don't move an inch. Her subconscious puts a big check mark on its internal list. He is strong. He is not afraid. I can be weak around him. He is a man. She didn't just walk over for no reason. She came to get nonverbal permission to stay. And your calmness is that permission. You haven't said a word, but the main exam is already passed. She tested your fortress, and the walls proved to be strong. Signal number 2. Tactical touch. The permission test. This is the next, deeper level of boundary crossing. If invading the intimate zone was reconnaissance on your territory, then tactical touch is a full-blown landing party directly on your body. You laugh at a joke, and her hand accidentally rests on your forearm. You're passionately explaining something, and her fingers briefly touch your knee. You're sitting next to each other, and as she gestures, her hand accidentally brushes against yours. The key word here is accidentally. But as Freud said, there are no accidents. What's the key difference from a friendly pat on the back? 3 things: location, duration, and context. A friendly pat is for the shoulder or the upper back. Tactical touch is for the forearm, the wrist, the knee, more personal, intimate zones. A friendly pat is sharp and quick. Her touch is light and lingers for a fraction of a second longer than necessary. But most importantly is the context. It happens at a moment of emotional peak, when your attention is focused on the conversation, and her touch slips directly into your subconscious. Bypassing the filters of logic. Freud would call this sublimation, the transfer of a repressed inner impulse into a socially acceptable action. Her body wants to touch you. Her subconscious craves contact. But her upbringing, her social mask, her superego, tells her, you can't, it's improper, what will he think? And so her subconscious finds a brilliant loophole, the accidental touch. This isn't just a touch. It's a question asked by her body to your body. Is this okay? Do you like it? Do you mind? How does your skin react to mine? She is literally testing the chemistry between you at the most basic physical level. What is the fatal mistake here? To pull your hand away, or to freeze up intense as if you've been electrocuted. Both are allowed, nonverbal and no. It's a signal that you're not ready for her touch, that it's a source of discomfort for you, not pleasure. The correct reaction, as in the first case, is calm acceptance. You simply continue talking without drawing attention to it. You might give her a slight smile at that moment. With this, you give a silent answer. Yes, it's okay. I like it. I'm ready. Her accidental touch is a bridge she's building across the chasm between you. And your calmness is a sign that it's safe to walk further across that bridge. Part 2. Signals of self-stimulation. Her body is rehearsing intimacy with Weil. If the first group of signals was about testing you in your space, the second group is a dialogue her body is having with itself. When attraction reaches a certain level, it starts to break through to the surface. But since direct action is socially taboo, this energy is directed towards herself or objects around her. A woman unconsciously begins to do what she wishes was being done to her. This is the most honest and intimate type of signal, because it's almost impossible to consciously control. Signal number 3. Public grooming. The preening female archetype. What is this? It's any action aimed at improving her appearance, performed directly in your presence. She suddenly starts fixing her hair, even though her hairstyle is perfect. She pulls out a compact mirror to check her makeup. She adjusts her dress, smooths out wrinkles, fiddles with an earring or a pendant on her neck. At first glance, these are ordinary female gestures. But the key factor is the moment they occur. They begin when her interest in you reaches its peak. Why does she do this? Here we turn to Carl Jung and his theory of archetypes. Within every woman lives an unconscious image, an archetype, responsible for attracting a partner. When she identifies a man as potentially hers, this archetype is activated. The desire to fix herself up in front of him is an ancient behavioral program. It's her instinct saying, an important male is watching. I need to look my best. It's the equivalent of a peacock spreading its tail. He doesn't do it for everyone, only for the specific female he has chosen. How can you distinguish this from a regular habit? By the change in her behavior. If you've been talking for half an hour and she was completely calm, and then, after a particularly good joke or a serious story from you, she suddenly starts actively preening, that's it. It's an unconscious marker that her perception of you has just changed, has moved to a new level. Your social rank has risen in her eyes, and she is instinctively reacting to it by raising her own presentation value. What's the mistake here? Not noticing it, ignoring it. To a man, these gestures seem like background noise, but to her subconscious, it's an important act. The correct reaction is to notice and approve. You don't need to say, you're fixing your hair. It's enough to give her a compliment at that moment, one that isn't directly related to her action. For example, you have very expressive eyes. You are responding to her unconscious question, did you notice me? Do you like me? And your compliment at that moment is the answer. Yes, I noticed. And yes, I like you. You are closing the feedback loop, and her attraction intensifies. Signal number 4, desire projection, unconscious self-touching. This, perhaps the most powerful and revealing signal of all, because it is a direct leak of her fantasies into the real world. When a woman is highly aroused but cannot express it directly, her libido, according to Freud, finds a detour, and it finds it in self-touching. She begins to slowly stroke her neck. Her fingers trace the contour of her collarbones. She thoughtfully runs a finger along her lip. She slowly caresses the stem of the wine glass she's holding. She is, in a way, transferring her internal arousal onto herself, or the objects around her. What is happening in her head at this moment? Absolutely nothing conscious. She is not thinking, now I'll show him how I want him to touch me. That would be too simple and vulgar. No, her body does it on its own. It's her subconscious creating a live instruction manual for you. By stroking her neck, it shows you one of its most sensitive erogenous zones. By running a finger over her lips, it draws your attention to her mouth. By caressing a cold, smooth glass, she unconsciously associates that object with you and rehearses the desired touches. It's a one-woman show where all the roles are played by her repressed desire. How can you tell this apart from nervousness? Nervous gestures are fast, jerky, and chaotic. She might fiddle with her earlobe, tap her nails on the table, or quickly scratch her arm. The gestures of desire projection, on the other hand, are slow, smooth, almost meditative. They have a rhythm, a sense of pleasure. She seems to be enjoying her own touches. That's the key difference. Nervousness is about discharging excess energy. Desire projection is about savoring it. This is the moment when a man must be at his most attentive. Her body is literally drawing you a map of its desires. And your job is not just to look, but to see and remember. She is showing you her weak spots, the entry points to her sensual world. To ignore this is a crime. To get flustered and look away is a mistake. The correct reaction is calm observation and verbal accompaniment. You could say something like, "You seem especially thoughtful today." You let her know that you see her state, but you don't interpret it crudely. You stay within the bounds of social decency while giving her subconscious a signal. I see. I understand. I'm on the same wavelength. It's for this level of analysis that you came to this channel. We don't skim the surface. We cut to the core. If this is the approach you've been looking for, now is the perfect time to subscribe and become part of our community. Part 3. Signals of Openness and Invitation. She is lowering her AR more if the first two groups of signals were about tests and subconscious leaks. The third group is a direct, albeit nonverbal, invitation. This is the moment when her internal defense mechanisms shut down. She has passed the testing stage. She is convinced of your strength. She has felt a resonance. And now her body is saying, "I trust you. I'm ready." These are the most subtle but most important signals because they mean the green light is on. And there's no need to wait any longer. Signal number 5, displaying vulnerable areas. This submission and trust instinct. What do we observe here? She tosses her hair back, fully exposing her neck and the carotid artery area. She places her hands on the table with her palms up, revealing the delicate inner side of her wrists. She sits with her head tilted slightly to the side, again exposing her neck. From an anatomical perspective, these are the most vulnerable parts of the human body. And from an evolutionary psychology perspective, displaying these areas is the highest form of trust and unconscious submission. Let's draw an analogy from the natural world to understand the depth of this gesture. In a wolf pack, a wolf that has lost a fight will expose its neck to the dominant male to stop the aggression. By doing this, it says, "I acknowledge your strength. I surrender. I trust you." This behavior has been hardwired into the limbic system over millions of years. When a woman in your presence begins to display these vulnerable areas, she is doing the same thing on a human social level. Her instinct is screaming, "I don't see you as a threat. I feel safe. I am ready to be led." This has nothing to do with humiliation or weakness in a negative sense. On the contrary, it is a manifestation of her inner strength, the strength to trust. She is removing her natural armor because she feels she doesn't need it around you. She is effectively saying, "Here are my weak spots. I know you won't hurt me." This is an incredibly intimate and powerful signal that most men simply miss, dismissing it as a random gesture. How can you tell this apart from just getting comfortable? By context and duration. If she just fixed her hair and immediately returned to a closed posture, it means nothing. But if she tossed her hair back and stays in that position, if she talks to you with her head slightly tilted and her neck exposed, if her hands are resting relaxed on the table, palms up, this is not an accident. It's a state of openness and trust. Your task at this moment is not to disrupt this fragile atmosphere. Speak more calmly, more quietly. Your gaze should be warm and accepting. You must non-verbally respond to her trust with your own calmness and reliability. Signal number 6, moist lips and a parted mouth. The physiology of desire. Now we move from psychology to pure physiology. This signal is impossible to fake or imitate because it is a direct result of biochemical processes in her body. When a woman experiences strong sexual arousal, her parasympathetic nervous system is activated. This leads to two visible effects. First, blood flow to her lips increases, making them appear slightly fuller and more vibrant. Second, saliva production reflexively increases. Because of this, she starts to lick her lips more often, or they simply look moist and shinied out furthermore. In a state of arousal, the facial muscles relax, and her mouth may be slightly parted. This isn't because she wants to say something. It's simply muscle relaxation. The combination of these three factors, slightly swollen, moist lips, and a slightly parted mouth, is a 100% indicator of her internal state. Her body is preparing for a kiss, for physical contact. It is the physiological green light. Freud paid great attention to the oral stage of development and directly linked the mouth and lips to pleasure and the libido. When her attention, and your attention, is drawn to her mouth, it's for a reason. It's a focus on the area that is currently the epicenter of her sensuality. She might bite her lip, lick it, or simply keep her mouth parted while listening to you. These are all variations of the same signal. What is the most common mistake here? Miscalibrating the response. Seeing this signal, a man might decide it's a direct invitation for an immediate, aggressive kiss. And that can ruin everything. Yes, it's an invitation, but the response must be subtle. You shouldn't lunge at her. You must first respond with your eyes. Start applying the next signal, number 7. Shift your gaze to her lips, hold it there for a second, and then return to her eyes. Smile. This shows that the signal has been received. You are telling her without words, I see it. I feel the same way. You are building tension, anticipation, not destroying the magic with a crude action. Signal number 7. A seduction. Triangle. The unmistakable invitation to a kiss. This is the final chord. The culmination of all the previous signals. This is the moment when the nonverbal dialogue reaches its highest point and demands a transition to physical action. A normal, friendly, or businesslike gaze moves along the trajectory of left eye-right eye bridge of the nose. We look at the upper part of the other person's face. But when a woman is ready for a kiss, the trajectory of her gaze changes. It begins to move along the root. Your left eye, your right eye, your lips. And back again. She might do it quickly, almost imperceptibly, or she might do it slowly and languidly. But the very fact that her gaze shifts down to your mouth is an unmistakable, direct, and nonverbal invitation for a kiss. Why is this signal so important? Because with it, she takes the final step. She has already tested you. She has opened up to you. Her body is physiologically ready. And now, by looking at your lips, she is unconsciously signaling her final desire to close the distance to zero. She is trying it on with her eyes. She is already imagining the kiss. This is the point of no return. If you see this signal, especially in combination with the previous ones, and you don't act, you're not just missing an opportunity. You are discrediting yourself in her eyes as a man incapable of reading the obvious. Imagine you're driving a car. You approach an intersection. The light turns green. The cars next to you start moving. But you just sit there. People honk at you. But you just sit there. That's what's happening in her world when she sends you the seduction triangle, and you continue talking or looking away. Her subconscious is stunned. I've done everything I could. I've shown him everything. Why isn't he acting? Your inaction at this moment will be interpreted not as politeness, but as insecurity or, even worse, a lack of mutual desire. What should you do in this moment? Stop talking. Pause. Look her in the eyes, then at her lips, then back to her eyes, mirroring her signal. Smile slightly, and slowly, very slowly, begin to close the distance. No sudden movements. Give her the chance to pull back at the last second if you somehow misread the situation, though the probability of that after such a signal is less than 1%. Your slow advance is the final question, now asked by your body. And if she stays put, the answer has been received. Act. Conclusion. From blindness to all-seeing glance, put it all together. We have broken down the 7 keys to a woman's subconscious. First, she tests your boundaries by invading your intimate zone and using tactical touch. She is asking, are you strong? Is it okay to touch you? Then, having received a positive answer, she moves on to signals of self-stimulation, public grooming, and desire projection. Her body says, I want you to like me. This is how I want you to touch me. And finally, when trust reaches its peak, she sends signals of openness. She displays vulnerable areas. Her lips betray her physiological state, and her gaze draws the seduction triangle. She is saying, I trust you. I'm ready. It's your move. This is not a set of random gestures. It is a consistent, logical, and absolutely unmistakable algorithm embedded in her by nature. Your task is to stop listening only to words. With words, a woman defends herself, masks herself, plays social roles. With her body, she speaks the truth. By learning to see these 7 signals, you cease to be a blind kitten pawing at a closed door. You receive night vision goggles that allow you to see her true desires in the darkness of social conventions. You stop waiting for permission and start seeing unmistakable invitations, acting confidently, precisely. And at the exact moment she is waiting for it, today, we learn to see her secret yes. But seeing is only half the battle. The hardest part is reacting correctly. How do you avoid scaring her off or seeming arrogant, and instead act in a way that your move becomes a relief for her, the fulfillment of her desire? This topic, action calibration, 7 responses to her 7 signals, is what we will dissect in the next video. To make sure you don't miss it, ensure you're subscribed and be sure to hit the notification bell. And now, the main question for you. Which of these 7 signals have you noticed most often, but were afraid to misinterpret? Share your story in the comments. It will become our collective textbook on male perceptiveness.